Emerald Fennell, Heathcliff would hate you. My first introduction to Wuthering Heights was through this girl. You're looking at Effie Stoneham from Skins, played by Kaya Scodelario. And she played Kathy in this version of Wuthering Heights, directed by Andrea Arnold. And I heard about the movie before I had ever read the book. And that's why I read the book. I was a read the book before seeing the movie kind of girl. And I was a fan of Kaya Scodelario through Skins. Honestly, I think that is like the best way into Wuthering Heights as a teenage girl that like one could possibly have. And I am here to talk about the Emerald Fennell version. I'm here to talk about the drama of Wuthering Heights. But I'm gonna digress for a bit, and we'll get back to it, because Skins is similar to Wuthering Heights in that they are both about fucked up kids. Kathy from Wuthering Heights, you do get her like childhood, but like the action that most movies cover is like from her childhood till when she's 19. So she's literally always a kid. And at 16, she decides to marry Linton. And at 19 is when she dies in the book. And I'm sorry if that was a spoiler. This is going to be like all spoilers. So teenage Kathy, like all teenagers, like the teenagers in Skins, is dramatic, fucked up, and kind of scary. It's really such a relatable book for high schoolers if you can get into it because of or despite the language. It really is so relatable. And I'll read you a passage, and this is a part that I've related to differently at different parts of my life, and I really love it, and we'll see if I can find it really fast. Okay, here it is. Okay. So in this scene, Kathy's Mrs. Linton because she's married to Edgar now, and she is mad that she can't have her two boyfriends, so she locks herself in her room and like is refusing to eat. It's like very teen dramatic. She's 18, maybe 18-ish here. I don't know exactly when her birthday is. She goes, Mrs. Linton, on the third day, unbarred her door, and having finished the water in her pitcher and decanter, desired a renewed supply and a basin of gruel, for she believed she was dying. Nellie's having none of it. That I set down as a speech meant for Edgar's ears, I believed no such thing. See, she's not having any of it. So I kept it to myself and brought her some tea and dry toast. She ate and drank eagerly and sank back on her pillow again, clenching her hands and groaning, "Oh, I will die." Okay, wait, how do I do it as like a teenager? Ugh, I'm dying. This is so Effie coded. Okay, I gotta watch like a scene from Effie's, like of Effie's, so that I can perform it right. Okay, let me pull something up. I'm going to die. That's her on mushrooms. That's not going to help. There are higher stakes in this time and place. And, like, she does drive herself to, like, her own death, like, eventually. But this is funny. This is funny to me. "I will die," she exclaimed. "Since no one cares anything about me. I wish I had not taken that." She wishes she didn't eat. Then a good while after, I heard her murmur, "No, I'll not die. He'd be glad. He does not love me at all. He would never miss me." "Did you want anything, ma'am?" I inquired, still preserving my external exposure in spite of her ghastly countenance and strange, exaggerated manner. "What is that apathetic being doing? What is that man up to?" she demanded, pushing the thick and tangled locks from her wasted face. "Has he fallen into lethargy, or is he dead?" "Neither," I replied, "if you mean Mr. Linton. He's tolerably well, I think." So the stakes are much higher, right? So it's like kind of easy to read that and be like, oh my god, she's dying because she loves Heathcliff and she can't have him. It is both. But like if you just think of the universality of teenage girls, that's just teen girl drama with just higher stakes. And it's, I mean, in context, it's even funnier because these men are obsessed with her. I mean, Edgar is kind of like, the vibe is that I think if he saw all of her cruelty and whatever, like fully understood it, fully looked at it, I think he's like willfully ignorant to the parts of her that he doesn't like, the parts of her that are Heathcliff, because it would scandalize him. But we all, I mean, that's real. That's such a realistic thing to like see the parts of someone, especially for a man, to see like the parts of a girl that he thinks are dainty or nice or pretty or whatever or beautiful, and like not the parts that he doesn't like. And then Heathcliff is obsessed with her and actually friends with her too, and you know, whatever. So anyway, I could do a deep dive into how Arnold's version was totally before its time and she should be given the budget to do a sequel, and all I really want to see is the next generation Kathy and like no other version of Wuthering Heights unless you do the entire story. But like, I want to see the part after Kathy dies. I only want to see Kathy number 2. Like, that's what I want to get out of like an adaptation. But that's just me. We don't need to go down that road. However, Kaya Scodelario should play Nellie if that was to happen. That'd be pretty awesome. She's got some years to do it, because Nellie's older than her, but like age apparently doesn't matter. I don't know, in casting. Anyway, let's get back to this Emerald Fennell adaptation. So Heathcliff is cast as a white person. The issue is, famously, Heathcliff is ambiguous, but he's not ambiguous as to whether he's white or not white. It's ambiguous as to like where he's from and his origins and whatever. Like, that's ambiguous, but it's not ambiguous whether or not he's white. And everybody always cites this passage, which I'll read to you. It's Nellie talking to Heathcliff as a child and telling him the story of like where his parents could be from as like a comforting little like, oh, you could be from royalty. You should feel good about yourself. Like, it's sweet. It's a sweet moment. And it's the kind of thing that you would say to a kid. You could be a princess. Like, could be a prince. It's like that kind of moment. And the references that she makes are non-white people references, obviously, because she is describing like how he looks to her. So yeah, she's admitting that he's not as cute as Edgar Linton, which is probably also just racism. A good heart will help you to a bonny face, lad. So she's saying you'd be pretty if you're nice. Who knows but your father was Emperor of China and your mother an Indian queen, each of them able to buy up with 1 week's income Wuthering Heights and Thrushcross Grange together. At this point in the story, Kathy lives in Wuthering Heights and Edgar Linton's family owns Thrushcross Grange. And you were kidnapped by wicked sailors and brought to England, where I in your place I would frame high notions of my birth, blah, blah, blah. So the point being that this is the main place that people reference to say, like, she obviously thinks he looks like he could be Indian. He looks like he could be mixed Indian and Chinese. And I think referencing this passage has become, like, a little bit problematic because it makes it kind of sound like blink and you'll miss it, like read too fast or skim or whatever and you'll miss it, when actually I could turn to literally any page and find some description that fits, that people are not perceiving Heathcliff as white at all. It's like not a secret. That's like my whole point. I mean, like, not literally any page, because there's pages that he's like not even on, but the most like common interpretation in the text is that he would be of like Romani descent. They call him a Lascar, which is also, I think, a type of South Asian sailor, a type of Indian sailor. Let me look that up again. Lascar. South Asian sailors and militiamen. So they call him that. It's all based on how he looks. So dumb. Okay. And to take it out is not just taking a role from a person of color who like doesn't actually have as many like classic roles, which is bad. Like, that is what it is doing, and that's bad. It's bad to take a classic role that could have gone to a person of color and give it to a white person, because there are no shortage of brooding white men in the classics. Jacob Elordi could be any of them. So that's bad from like a working perspective, from like us giving roles to people perspective, from like a representation, people of color should see themselves in classic literature perspective, but also it's like thematically relevant. I don't even like know how do you tell this story? I've never watched any of the movies that have Heathcliff as a white person. I've never watched any Wuthering Heights movies other than the 2011 one, the Andrea Arnold, because I don't care. I recognize that some of them are probably good in the sense of like lots of people say they are, but I don't want it. It's not my book. I think, okay, anyway, I'm going to get back to my script, but then I'll get back into what I think. So I reread this book to make this video, and I had even forgotten how obvious it was. I guess in my memory, and because of just like the world's reception and the discussion around it, like in my memory, I was like, you're right, maybe it was ambiguous. It's not ambiguous whether or not he's person of color. That's not what is ambiguous about it. We don't know where he's from specifically. So James Howson plays Heathcliff in this Andrea Arnold version of Wuthering Heights, which is the first time that Heathcliff is played by a person of color, and James Howson is black. And if you watch 2 seconds of that version, I mean, the interplay between the commentary on colonialism and who Heathcliff is, and whatever. Like, I don't need to explain this to you. This is... And you know, I was thinking, like, I don't need to explain this part. Everybody's kind of on, like, should be in agreement that Heathcliff should be played by a person of color. But then I saw this news about Odessa Azion. Is that how you say it? Odessa Azion got cast as Zoe Gutierrez, who is a Mexican character in a book that I haven't read and don't really know anything else about it. And I do believe at this point she has backed out because of criticism from fans. But why? This is such a bigger problem than I wanted it to be, and that it feels like it should be at this point. Like, you would think someone would cast a black Heathcliff and then everyone would go, oh, that's what we should have been doing the whole time. It's not what happened. There are better videos breaking down the racism of this choice. But I read that Emerald Fennell said that she didn't want a POC Heathcliff because she couldn't do that story justice. Then don't do the story. Don't do it. I actually couldn't find very many clips of her addressing this choice. This is the closest that I could find to kind of justify my claim here.
It's had some comments around it, especially a person of color, and, you know, casting Jacob in it. What do you kind of think about that commentary?
I think the thing is everyone who loves this book has such a personal connection to it. And so you can only ever kind of make the movie that you sort of imagined yourself when you read it, and then you can, I don't know, I think I was sort of focusing on kind of sadomasochistic elements of it. And so, but that's the great thing about this movie, is that it could be made interesting. There are so many different takes. So, you know, I just welcome I think every year we should have a new one.
But I would extrapolate from this, like, she is saying, that's not my Heathcliff. And I think then you're not adapting the story on the page, so then don't do it. It's not even acknowledging an understanding of the book. The next thing I had noted to talk about was the age thing. And I thought I really didn't care about the characters' ages. I thought that really wasn't on my list of things to, like, really deeply care about, because I think that, like, aging up or using older actors to play younger characters is just something we're so used to seeing. But then I rewatched the Andrea Arnold version last night, and I'll tell you my feelings about it later. But watching it made me think twice about that age opinion, because there is a scene in the book that where I think I've already talked about it, I've already alluded to it, but it's the scene where Kathy is telling Nellie that she loves Heathcliff, but she's going to marry Edgar Linton, and that prompts Heathcliff to, like, run away. And they're 16 in the book when this happens. And as an adult, it's hard to visualize what that looks like, and you're just also kind of accepting. You're like, yeah, they're 16, but it was a different time. Like, you die a lot younger. Like, the 16 is much older than it is now. But Andrea Arnold, she used the younger cast for this scene. And I was just so expecting to see James Howson and Kai Scodelario, like, doing this scene. Like, that's the age visual that I had, because James Howson was in his early 20s, and Kai Scodelario, I think, was 19, maybe 20 at the time of this filming. And so I was like, yeah, they're going to be playing the 16-year-olds. No, they had the children do it, which is awesome. I thought that was great. I was like, this is jarring, and I think that's the point. Yeah, I'm going to marry Edgar. And I was like, are you, baby?
Edgar's asked me to marry him. I said yes.
And then when Heathcliff comes back, that's when they do the time jump to the older actor. So they're playing only the 19-year-old version. So it's like the young, it's so good. It's such a good choice. It's, like, jarring. My conditioned brain is just so accustomed to seeing 19-year-olds playing 16-year-olds, or like 23-year-olds, early 20s people playing teenagers, that it was just shocking to me to see the babies doing it. But it made so much more sense for the time jump to be placed there. That makes sense. And that created so much tension for me as a viewer. And I was like, oh my God, what's going... Like, it gives you an empathy for Kathy that you really do need in this story, because she's like... annoying and they're all kind of bad people. And then you're like, it just gives you so much context to actually see them as children and to see them as their appropriate races. And now we have Emerald Fennell taking all the tension out of Wuthering Heights, and replacing it with sex. I mean, I'm interpreting most of her interviews as just like, yeah, I read the book, I wanted there to be sex in the book, and so I'm making there be sex in the movie.
I wrote down the things that I remembered from the book. And what was so interesting was that some of them were real, and some of them weren't. Some of it was wish fulfillment.
If you really have appreciation for Wuthering Heights as a book, you know that it's horrible. It's horrible. It's like painful. It's terrible. This story that happens in this book.
Kind of tragic romance, and also discomfort. I mean, the book itself, for those of us that really love it, it is just about love.
And it's mostly not Heathcliff and Cathy's love story, which...
This sort of central conflict and a central love story, and so how do I, translate that feeling into a film?
Again, I mean, I feel like so much of this is just beating a dead horse, but the actual narrative within Wuthering Heights of Heathcliff and Cathy's love story has very, very few beats. Basically, the love story of Cathy and Heathcliff is Heathcliff's villain origin story, because the rest of the book is him taking revenge. I'm going to show you of Heathcliff acquiring ownership of both Thrushcross Grange and Wuthering Heights through his son and forcing his son to marry Cathy. Thematically, Wuthering Heights is about obsession, vengeance, class, bias, prejudice. I fear that Saltburn is more Wuthering Heights than Wuthering Heights is. The relationship between Oliver and Felix, it has the otherness of queer longing, the obsession, the class struggle. This all points to a more Cathy-Heathcliff dynamic than what I'm seeing in Wuthering Heights. I think Wuthering Heights is going to be extremely leaning into spectacle at the cost of story. I think story is harder, and I fear that the further that you get from what makes Wuthering Heights a difficult story, the more that it's just going to feel empty as an adaptation. And if it was going to be that empty, if it was going to be that devoid of what makes Wuthering Heights so painful and horrible and wonderful, that it would just be a different story if we didn't have to do Wuthering Heights, if we could just do Wuthering Heights inspired this. It's called Pepper Freeze. Now, I'm not trying to fully advocate for a take. I said at the beginning that this is my Cathy, and I do feel that because of my experience with the story, but I don't think that means that's the version that needs to be made again. And I also there are a lot of things I don't like about Andrea Arnold's adaptation. I do think the beginning is very slow. I think what she was trying to do is very, very clear, and that's what I like about it. I think the point of making an adaptation, it's not even to do everything correctly, because you are making a movie, you're making an adaptation of a book, it's a different medium, you have to approach it differently, but you have to decide what is important to you about the story and bring that out, not just put something on top of it. I think Andrea Arnold's version has some really interesting, beautiful choices. She said in an interview that she wanted the wind to be a character in the movie. She really was intentionally making the version with the first Black Heathcliff, which was important and was an integral part of the story that she told. I think Heathcliff's race is an integral part of the book, and she responded to that and said, this is my, I'm extrapolating, I'm responding to something that I read. And I think that could very well be the problem with Wuthering Heights, is that, I write, and I have a manuscript that I wrote that when someone asked me why I wrote it, I said, because I didn't see a book like this that I liked. I want there to be a good version, a version of this that I liked. And they said, that's a bad reason to make something, because You know, there's nothing wrong with filling a gap in the market, right? Doing something that doesn't exist, filling a version, making a version of a thing that fills this hole that you've perceived. But I think the problem is when you're creating something because you dislike all the original versions, or you think the original version isn't good, and then you're trying to make one that is good. I think you can say it's missing something. I think you're saying this, you could say this is my take. I think you can say, like, you know, but it should come from, in the first place, a place of love, right? You wouldn't endeavor to write a movie because you've hated all movies, and you're like, this is the first screenplay that I'm ever going to like. I fixed it. I fixed all the problems with movies. I think you have to love them first and then write the screenplay, right? You have to love, like, this genre of book, even if you say to yourself, well, I've never seen a version of this trope done with queer characters, or whatever it is, and you say, I've never seen a version done with queer, you would love that trope first. You should love Wuthering Heights before you adapt it, and I think it seems evident to me that Emerald Fennell does not. I recognize that she says she does, but I think she loves her version and only her version, and she loved what it was to her, but not the text itself. And so the things that she's putting on top of it are not necessarily from the text, or not an extrapolation on the text. There's something that she thinks that she can mix in with the text to make the text more palatable to her. And I think that's not the way to do it. It's a small distinction, right? It's just a reframe, but I think it's an important reframe. You shouldn't make something from a place of, like, I've hated all of them. Because it's like, why are you making that? Why don't you make something that you like? You know, if you need a version of it because this version doesn't exist, you can tell if you've made it from a place of, like, I love this thing and I can add to it. I can make it that plus me. Or if you're saying, I really don't like this thing and I've got a better idea, but I'm going to mix it together so that I can call it Wuthering Heights. I also want to add that I haven't seen this movie yet because it's not out yet, and who knows if I will see it, but yeah, so I could be wrong, but probably not.